There are always opportunities for bettors at this time of the season. While Europe's elite focus on their continental quarter-final first and second legs, they still have domestic matches to contend with this weekend. That dual focus is one of the big themes of this show, as our panel of betting experts offer up 2 picks each for matches from England, Scotland and Italy. All that and more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Football Betting Pod powered by Betting Expert. I'm your host, Alan Jenkins, joined as ever by Betting Expert's football editor, Sam Ingram. How are we doing, Sam?
Hello, Dan. I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm fantastic.
Good. I'll bet you are, yeah. After midweek, yeah.
I'm fantastic. I think we should save some of that for the Champions League chat next week. But I feel good.
That was something, wasn't it?
It was certainly something.
Really was. Did not expect that over goal line to be breached in that way, but there we are. But yeah, maybe we should save that till next week's Champions League pod.
Keep a bit of that for next week. And you don't want to talk about Plymouth going down to my hometown team, Swansea City, last night? Or
I'm just so fed up with them at the minute. I really don't want to talk. I like a bet in that game, as you probably expect, but I just didn't want to talk about them, so I just left them off for this pod. Let's see.
Putting yourself first. It's important at some point. Sometimes, yeah.
Fair enough. Joining us again, Scott Thornton. How are we doing, Scott?
Yeah, all good. Enjoyed midweek and ready for the weekend now. So, yeah, don't want to go into more detail on that because the Champions League pod next week will be an interesting one.
Yeah, another man looking forward to that Champions League pod is Daniele Fisichella. Congrats to your Inter.
Thank you. I'll take it to one in Bavaria. No, doesn't happen very frequently, but we're not there yet. Fingers crossed, we'll suffer. I mean, typically.
Always suffer.
Always.
As I said at the start of the show, we've got 6 tips from our 3 betting experts on the show today. But before that, Sam, over to you for a big change in our YouTube output.
Yes, we have a brand new YouTube channel, which is going to be dedicated to football betting only. It's going to house this podcast and also a lot more content than just this show. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to put the link in the description below, whether that be on Apple, Spotify, or on Twitter. So keep an eye out for that. There's going to be a lot of content over there. So yeah, exciting times.
Yeah. One of those new pieces of content is going to be the pod treble, which will be moving away from the pod to its own sort of standalone thing. Maybe in the future we could decide to just throw it in at the end of the audio, but video-wise, for now, the YouTube channel, the new YouTube channel is the only place to be getting that. And you'll be recording something tomorrow with Scott talking about his prop bets of the week.
Yes, so at the minute, Scott's props are, well, I don't know why I'm talking for him, but yeah, Scott's props are they're written up on site in article format, both Premier League and European. We're going to take that and put it onto YouTube as well. It's still going to be on site where you can read it if you'd like, but there's going to be a standalone video too, which is going to drop on tomorrow, Friday.
We'll talk in a bit more detail and we'll try and bring in some longer shot bet builders as well. So we'll try and get something about 10 to 1 to put out there and talk about some more player markets than we usually would because they're quite nice for audio format. So yeah, definitely one to listen to.
Some nice exclusive content for everyone who wants a little bit more of our panel. Let's go on with the bets. Sam, do you want to kick us off with your first pick, looking at Newcastle versus Man United?
Yeah, this was just going to be Newcastle to win, but the prices are changing all the time. So they're down to, I think it's 1.66, a little bit short for the podcast. So I've ended on Newcastle winning under 4.5 goals at 2.10 on Bet365. They play Man United. A Man United team. We'll start with the scheduling. The scheduling is clearly in Newcastle's favour. United have to slug it out in Lyon tonight, which shouldn't be plain sailing. Newcastle will have had 6 days rest since their previous game against Leicester City. So United will have less than half of that, as it's a Thursday to Sunday 4:30 turnaround for Man United. Ruben Amorim's team, they're gradually improving, but they're still not quite at the level of this Newcastle squad, in my eyes, a Newcastle squad which is growing and evolving together, winning silverware together, and now chasing Champions League qualifications. So I know there were concerns about maybe a potential hangover following the EFL Cup win. I saw that plenty of places on plenty of podcasts, and that just hasn't happened. It seemingly lifted the squad instead. And with that, I'm pretty sure they have enough in front of home support to outmuscle any weary legs arriving on Sunday afternoon. So Newcastle, they've won 7 of 11 games in 2025. They've also won 11 of their last 15 Premier League games. The first of those 15 games came on December the 14th. And since then, no team has won more games in the Premier League than Newcastle United's 11. So they're very much in form, full of confidence, and I think they're worth backing on Sunday.
Yeah, it's an interesting one as well with ramifications for the Champions League. Arsenal's result in midweek, I think, guaranteed the 5th place Champions League spot is going to the Premier League this week. So Newcastle currently in 5th with a game in hand, obviously chasing out lots of competition with Forest, Chelsea, Man City, Aston Villa. It's a good result for Newcastle, wasn't it? That win for Arsenal really gives them an extra bit of chance, an extra bit of hope for qualifying for the Champions League. Do you expect them to get over the line now, Sam? And is that the sort of fuel that's sort of leading this bet? Is that
it's a really tough one, isn't it? I would expect them to get top 5. I think let's take away any kind of Man City points deduction out of it. If that doesn't come this season, I think Newcastle and Man City takes 4th and 5th. I think Chelsea might drop out of it. Aston Villa, they're going to be toe to toe with Man City and Newcastle, but maybe they just drop out. I'm not sure. It's a really tough one to predict, to be honest. But in terms of this game, Newcastle are obviously fighting for something. Man United sit 13th in the Premier League. So their priority is clearly on the Europa League campaign at the minute over everything else. And that might prompt changes for the second leg next week here on the weekend. They've returned 38 points so far this season. Betsy projects them to finish on 47 points, which is 13 points fewer than last season. It's been pretty poor overall for United. And Newcastle's campaign has been the opposite. Silverware's locked in, like we said. No distractions all week. They're the better, more cohesive team. They're more efficient and more likely to score in that final third. Newcastle, if you look at the underlying data, they've accumulated 9.7 XG more than United over the course of the season. They've allowed 7.9 XGA fewer. Much better team in the previous 2-0 away win at Old Trafford. They created 4 big chances on that day. So Newcastle on Sunday, they look a bet for me.
Yeah, United haven't won away there in the Premier League since October 2020. Let's see, certainly on side with you. Expected goal line is 2.85, which is one of the lowest in the Premier League for the weekend. Newcastle projected to generate 1.73 goals, 1.12 for Man United. So on side with you there. You're probably just going a little bit further, but given the hangover from the European and that Thursday-Sunday schedule, I can understand the reasoning there for you, Sam. Sam's first bet of the pod is Newcastle to win and under 4.5 goals. That is at odds of 2.10 with a full unit on there. Daniele, over to you for Udinese versus AC Milan in Serie A.
Friday evening game for Milan, who are not in any competition but the Coppa Italia, so they are given the luxury of play earlier than anyone else. And Udinese, a team that is already saved. I think they overachieved this season with a new manager, Kostarunic, and a very young group of players. Among them, of course, Umar Sulet, who's been bought as a free agent in January, has been probably one of the best defender in Serie A. But unfortunately for Udinese, there is the curse of the 40 points mark. Once they reach that, it is always happened previous seasons as well. They tend to fall off a cliff. No wins in the last 4, although they get a good result, a good draw against Lazio, a good second half against Inter, but the form has decreased. Milan don't have a great chance to make it really into the top 4 in Italy. Actually, they are projected to finish 9th by Betsy with 61.3 points, which will be really, really disappointing because as a squad, I don't think Milan are too behind Inter. In fact, they have not lost any of the last 4 derbies, but they seem very, very disappointing, not very coherent on the pitch, and Conceição hasn't really been able to leave his mark. If anything, actually, Milan and Udinese should finish 9th and 10th, but with more than 13 points between them. Now, I think this is a goal game. It's a goals game. Milan strength lies in the forward line. Probably Rafa Leao is going to start. Tammy Abraham is in good form. Scored 2 in the last 2. Milan have got firepower. Udinese have them as well in the likes of Lucca. Let's see if Tuaven makes it back into the starting 11. But it's a team that rarely does not score. So I'm going to go for over 2.5 goals here for this game, which pays 190 with a full unit.
Yeah, it looks like quite a good price. Betsy is projecting a total of 2.75 goals for this game, 0.99 for Udinese, 1.76 for AC Milan. So nice to see a 1.9 price for the over 2.5. I've been keeping an eye on Milan because I thought Conceição was going to be a really good appointment. Daniele, I had quite high hopes for it, but they are really struggling at the moment, aren't they? Last clean sheet was in mid-February, but the only sort of argument against this bet is Udinese. They're averaging 1.75 goals in their last 8 matches. Is that a concern, or is this a Milan leading this bet more so than the visitors?
No, I think it's more Milan-led because I think Milan wins it. They need to outscore Udinese because they seem to concede out of nothing. Last Sunday against Fiorentina, they conceded 2 goals in the opening 10-12 minutes. And yeah, there are some lapses of concentration, but also there are individual mistakes. So the goals tend to creep in. And never anyone from the back 5, including the goalkeeper, have a great game altogether. There is always somebody, either the centre backs or is Magnan, who's having a poor game. And I think Udinese are more than capable of scoring. It is a team that often concludes an attacking phase with a shot, even if it's from long distance. So I think they will find the opportunities there. But Milan, on the other hand, they score plenty of goals in second half of games. Sometimes they need to resort to late comebacks as they did at Lecce late on. So it could be another late win, if you like, for Milan. And probably a result that won't change the destiny of Milan or Conceição. They're really looking for next season to get someone else in. But I think, this probably end of the season games, especially when Udinese are involved, which are in a safe position. I would say this can go well over 3 goals.
Yeah. Betsy predicting Milan to finish 9th. There's no real chance of sneaking into a European spot for them at this point, would you say, Daniele?
Very, very unlikely because it's so tight and you got 6 teams in front of you, and it is projected to remain tight until the end of the season. I don't think Milan plays any of those teams in the remaining 7 fixtures, so that's a problem for them. I believe they probably hope to avoid even qualifying for the Conference League and do basically what Napoli did: rebuild, get a new manager, perhaps even Antonio Conte, who knows, and then rebuild slowly, which would be a good news for them in a way, a bad news for every other competitors. But I think for Milan, that's what it. Well, obviously there is a Coppa Italia semi-final as well. I mean, they could still go to the Europa League if they do win the semi-final, or if they play Bologna is already qualified for the Champions League. So there are other options, other permutation, but no, the league route for me looks unlikely.
Wasn't Fonseca's appointment at the start of the season in a bid to play more attacking football as well? So if they did turn to Conte this summer, that would be a big turnaround on what the approach was going into this season. I think.
No, but I think they need somebody with that mentality. They need somebody to stabilize them, to make the players overcome their limits, to make the players believe they are as strong as they are, and basically for them to walk the line. This season, Milan, there have been too many mutinies, too much lack of proper conduct, proper respect for the managers, issues with penalty takers and polemics, etc. I don't think they can allow that. But as I said, I think as a squad, probably in Italy, I will put them as top 3 for sure, better than Atalanta, on par with Juve. I don't think they got a worse squad than Napoli. But then you look at what they did in the Champions League, lost to Dinamo Zagreb and knocked out by an understrength Feyenoord. So obviously, disappointed.
Must have been a long time, Daniele, since AC Milan missed out on Europe altogether. Like, I can't remember a time where...
You're testing my memory, but I think you have to go back. You have to go back when they were owned by the Chinese Li, before they were taken over by another hedge fund. So we think we're going back at least 10, 12 years. Yeah, I mean, I think at least, I think there was a season when both Inter and Milan missed an European competition, so that must have been right in the middle of the Juve dominance. But yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, it is a team that has won the Scudetto only 3 seasons ago, and they seem to have fallen off a cliff.
It was 1920, actually.
1920, okay.
1920 they didn't get in. 15, 16, 14, 15, but those are the only 3 seasons that they failed to qualify for Europe since, 1999?
1920, they'd be in Europe though, wouldn't they? Finished 6th.
Yeah, but they weren't in Europe that season.
Why
in
not?
1920, no, they were not in Europe. That's right. That's the COVID season. Yeah, they were not that.
Okay.
Yeah. That's post Gattuso, I think. Is the last season when
would have
Gattuso was there.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're an Italian side and you don't qualify for Europe, getting Antonio Conte in is usually a pretty good approach for success, isn't it? That's just
perfect. He's done it at Juve. When he won
button.
the first league, he could done it at Napoli. So yeah, I think he's the receipt for success.
Obviously, they're not Italian, but he did it at Chelsea as well, didn't he? Basically, just didn't have
Chelsea,
European football.
Yeah,
but this season, Napoli, strangely, in the second half, we talked about it before, they do drop quite a lot, and they have dropped a few points in second half, so they don't seem to sustain the same rhythm. Again, I think there is also another theory. Winning and playing helps you winning and keep playing better. Otherwise we would never have teams who win 2 or 3 titles in the same season. And I think the highest level we go, the players are more able to exert themselves.
Yeah. We'll see in the summer if AC Milan do smash that break glass in case of Saturday 3 p.m. button and get Antonio Conte in. But for now, Daniele's first bet is over 2.5 goals in Udinese versus AC Milan. That's a 1.90 with a full unit on that. Scott, over to you for the first of your 2 picks. The second one is quite interesting, but we'll go with Bournemouth Fulham first.
Yeah, Bournemouth Fulham, something more standard. We've talked about these angles before. We're going to back over 31.5 tackles in the match and over 33.5 throws in the match. And a lot of it is to do with Bournemouth. Again, big fan of what Bournemouth have done this season, what they've done since that initial rocky run, really, under Andoni Iraola at the beginning of last season, where it looked like it may sort of all go up in smoke. But he's really, really implemented his style of play. They're exciting to watch. They're aggressive when they don't have the ball. They're aggressive when they have the ball. They try and shift the ball quickly to the forwards. And it just makes for very, very exciting games to watch. One of my favourite stats of the season, and I've been harping on for a while, is the expected points. I absolutely love the fact that Bournemouth's expected points tally is the 3rd best in the Premier League. Only Liverpool and Arsenal have better expected points. But their inability to execute means that they're 10th. Okay, that could still be enough to secure European football the way the Premier League's going. Could be down to 11 English teams in Europe. But this weekend is a massive fixture in terms of the European race. They play Fulham. The gap is very, very small. Fulham, I believe, is 3 points heading into this game. Bournemouth have got 8 matches without a win across all competitions. They won an FA Cup game, but they didn't win it in normal time. So 8 matches without a win. They really have to get back to winning ways here now. This season's going to fizzle out. The players could be on the beach in 2 weeks mentally anyway. I'm sure they won't give them the extra time off. But in terms of the numbers, it does look very promising for tackles. It's more, the narrative is about the fact that it's high-octane approach, but the numbers are very, very good. The home matches, Bournemouth that is, have averaged 36.2 tackles per game. Fulham's away matches, 30.4, so just below the 31.5 I'm asking for here, but there were 38 tackles in the reverse fixture, so we're very much playing up to the Bournemouth factor here. That reverse fixture also saw 51 throw-ins, so way, way, way clear of the 33.5, but I wanted them quite close together here for this 1.8 double. Bournemouth matches see the most throws in the Premier League with an average of 39.81. The league average is just 32.93. So again, you're seeing Bournemouth's approach pay dividends in terms of throw-ins, and we should get that in terms of tackles as well, where there's a lot of talent in these wide areas. And Fulham's main threat is obviously Robinson, and it just should be a decent game with some good football in wide areas. Hence, tackles and throw-ins are on the agenda.
Yeah, it does look like one of the more intriguing matches in the Premier League slate this weekend. Betsy is putting Bournemouth as the favourites, as you'd expect. 1.55 expected goals for them, 1.21 for the visitors. Goal total of 2.77, with the difference is 0.34. So it's quite an interesting case. Obviously, Bournemouth had a lot of plaudits. I know you and Sam are both really big fans of this team. Looking at the form, they have sort of fallen off a little bit in the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure what's been going on with them, but they had that long unbeaten streak between November and the middle of February. But since then, they've only won one home game. The last home game they won, was on the 25th of January. It's been quite a while since they've gotten points at home. Like, what's been going on? I know they were having a lot of injury problems, but the form seems to have dipped when the players were returning.
Again, I think it's down to just being unable to put the chances away. If we look at those matches, so I mentioned the 8-match run without a win now. They've actually won the XG battle in 5 of those games, an average XG of 0.13 more than their opponents. That's despite City going in there in the FA Cup and really playing them off the park for the large part. So that's skewing that data quite a bit. They hammered West Ham in terms of XG, but then the game finished 2-2. West Ham were able to score 2 goals off an XG of around 0.6. So again, you'd like to say it's unlucky, but at this stage of the season, it's a trend that means something. But they're still a very good team. They create a lot of chances, and if you continue that approach long term over the course of multiple seasons, you're heading in the right direction. But yeah, they definitely need to add clinical edge to their attacking output because it's just not been there. Whereas a team like Forest have been able to bring out goals from the well whenever they want them and just overperform that underlying data. That's something Bournemouth haven't got, but they're certainly a very good team.
Yeah, very interesting. Maybe it was just some sort of slight overperformance for a short period of time, and now it's back to where it was before. Do you like goals here as well, Scott? Could be a good way, and Bournemouth haven't kept a clean sheet since that 5-0 win, their last home victory in the Premier League on the 25th of January.
Yeah, goals looks very, very good. I think both teams' scores landed in the last 7 competitive games for Bournemouth. Fulham, very, very capable in their own right. They've been scoring plenty of goals. They obviously 3-2 win against Liverpool last weekend, and I think they've scored in their last 5 Premier League away matches. So yeah, I'd be happy to get on goals, but we had a suitable price for 31.5 tackles and 33.5 throws, so I was happy to stick with the props double.
Good stuff. As I said, Scott's first bet is over 31.5 tackles and over 33.5 shots in Bournemouth versus Fulham. That's a 1.80 with a full unit on that. Sam, back over to you for your second pick, looking at a match in Scotland.
Aberdeen versus Rangers. You can get Aberdeen on a plus 0.5 Asian handicap at 1.95. So I'm going to take that for 1 unit. It's like the Newcastle Man United game. It's another situational spot where I'm looking to take on a team in Europa League action on Thursday evening tonight. So it's another set of circumstances where the away side have almost zero interest in the league. Celtic have won the SBL by a canter. There's no catching them. And there's no catching Rangers in second. So the main worry here about this bet is, I suppose, Celtic can actually win the title on the weekend if they beat Kilmarnock and if Rangers lose to Aberdeen. So obviously, if given the chance, Rangers would like to avoid being that final reason why Celtic have won the league. They'd much prefer that to be due to Celtic winning a game of football rather than them losing. But regardless, I don't think it'll make any difference to team selection, maybe in mindset, but the Europa League is the clear priority, just like Man United. Barry Ferguson will approach Aberdeen on Sunday with that at the forefront of his thinking. This also, like Newcastle United again, this also involves a home team with eyes on European football, with eyes on third spot in the SPL. So Aberdeen have it all to play for. Unfortunately for them, they experienced a horrendous run of form over December, January time. They couldn't win a game, which was fairly odd in itself because they had just navigated a start to the season, which had them right up there with Celtic and Rangers. If you count the Scottish League Cup, Aberdeen won 13 games in a row to begin the season, which is pretty remarkable. So it made that fall off a month or so later really quite unexpected. But now they've come past that. They're gradually working their way into form. They've only lost once in their last 7, which was a battering away to Celtic. And now Aberdeen are in a position to clinch third thanks to their early season form. But they are in a scrap with Hibs for that honour. They're currently 1 point behind, so this is a massive game for them. Third place grants safe passage to the second qualifying round of the Europa League, and fourth place in Scotland is the Conference League second qualifying round. So third spot is much coveted, and Aberdeen are going for it. And here on this Asian handicap line, all we need is a draw.
Yeah, I had similar in my notes, Sam. It's been an absolutely baffling season from Aberdeen, hasn't it? It was I got it down here. 15 wins, 1 draw, 0 defeats in their first 16 matches. Then it's 2 wins, four draws, and 11 defeats in the 17 matches that came after that. What happened, and how does it affect your bet? Because they are starting to recapture some form in recent weeks, but as we saw from these 2 crazy streaks, they can tend to sort of fall off a little bit.
Yeah, they veered from like the sublime to the ridiculous, really. It's like someone flicked a switch. But I suppose that might happen to a set of players when they were near top of the league and people started talking about them, like, can they really mount a challenge to Celtic Rangers? Can they push all the way to the Champions League spots? And when you're in that position and you're not expected to, that can sometimes have a detrimental effect on the squad. And that mixed in with a little bit of poor form, and it just snowballed, really. But they're now where they probably should be, in fourth, looking for that third spot. And overall, just in this selection in general, I just love the handicap. So they were minus 0.75 earlier in the week. This has come in a little bit, given the circumstances in the situation. That might continue following Rangers' game tonight on Thursday night. They play Athletic Club from Spain, very good team, pacey, direct, and they'll get that Rangers backline turning if given the chance. And we know from Rangers, they're going to give it their absolute all. There's no doubt about that. That's obvious. Thursday night, you would imagine, will take its toll mentally and physically. And I wouldn't be overly surprised if they can get a result over the line in the first leg against Athletic Club, given their performances in the competition this season to date. And even if they don't, let's say Rangers go 4-0 down heading back to Spain, they're going to be deflated traveling to Aberdeen on Sunday. Rangers' season will be over. So whatever which way the Thursday evening goes, I think it affects them some way or another. It has to, surely. In the past 6 weeks, with the chances of overturning the points gap to Celtic diminishing, Rangers have lost to St Mirren at home under Philippe Clement, Motherwell at home under Ferguson, plus a 2-0 loss in their most recent outing at home to Hibs. So they've lost 3 of the last 6, which is unusual for this Rangers team in Scotland. All we need here is a draw to return full profits, and it just feels like a really nice spot considering what Rangers are up to tonight.
Nice to get the draw inside. Sam's second pick is Aberdeen plus 0.5 in the Asian handicap market against Rangers. That's a 1.95 with the full unit on that. Daniele, over to you for the Derby della Capitale.
Yes, that's right.
Is that right?
That's
nice.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. Lazio Roma, by the way. If you haven't gathered it from Dan's accent, Lazio Roma on Sunday is an important game because obviously they are in the mix for this Champions League spot. And Claudio Ranieri comes with a great record in derbies, 5 wins out of 5, including the reverse fixtures 2-0. And this is a season really very hard to define for both teams because I think Lazio have overachieved initially. A very much changed squad with Baroni, a group of players that is very young. They were very energetic, press high, attacking, scoring a lot of goals. But they've slowly revert to the mean. But the 55 points they have so far really is a very good tally for them, considering how well they've done in the UEFA Europa League. And actually, they played this game on the back of the game against Bodo Glimt, where they're huge favorites. And I think that could play a part for a team, Lazio, as I said, I mean, it goes the same comparison between AC Milan and Roma. I think as a squad, Roma are stronger than Lazio, as much as Milan are very close to Inter, but Lazio have done better. But that's because also Roma have shot themselves in the foot by changing 3 managers, sacking De Rossi after 3 match days, hiring Juric, to which it's better not to add any more description of after what is done this season. His season has been tremendous, from Roma to Southampton and being sacked from Southampton. And now with Ranieri, they are unbeaten in 15 league games. They are by no any means a very high scoring side. The last 4 away games have all finished 1-0, but Ranieri has reinstilled the faith, the connection with the supporters. He's a Roman, he's a Romanista, so they trust him. And ultimately has done the simple things, put the players in the right position, given a little bit more of creativity up front. And there is no Dybala injured, but Sule is playing well. Dobbvik ultimately he's proving that, with the right service and with a little bit of confidence, he can be a good goal scorer. So he wasn't just a one-trick pony in La Liga last season. And now this game, I think first it will be not to lose, really. When you look at Lazio, defensively have been very disappointed. 42 goals conceded, only one home clean sheet. Roma only conceded 31 goals. In terms of expected points, Lazio are only 1.57 above them. So really, you can understand why the Asian handicap line has been set to 0. Problem is, of course, Roma don't score an awful lot of goals. Often, 7 of the last 10 derbies have ended with under 2.5 goals when Lazio was at home. Roma haven't won as a visitor since 2016, so really difficult here to pick a favorite. I go with both teams to score. I mean, I could have gone with a 1-1 draw, which seems to me probably a most likely outcome. But both to score is 180, almost mirroring the prediction from last week, Bologna-Napoli, that was where the goal line was set at 2. It was a push. The game is so important for teams not to take the game on, really, with 7 matches to go. It's so crucial to avoid the defeat, but obviously getting a win will be amazing. So I think that's going to be the early goal, and the early goal could lead to another goal further down the line from another team. So both to score for me at 1 unit.
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting match, isn't it? The ramifications on the table, implications are going to be huge with, 6 points separating 8th from 3rd in Serie A. It's loads of European spots up for grabs. 2 points between these two teams, city rivalry. And as you said there, they share a stadium, but it's quite rare for the side classified as a visiting team to win this match. I think it's 1 in 16.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, and there is nothing such a home advantage unless it's psychological. But playing in the same stadium and having slightly less supporters, it can't really count as an advantage. I think it also depends what kind of position they're in the table and what they're going for. In recent seasons, Roma haven't won many of those away games because they were always embroiled in European competitions and gone far into the Conference League and the UEFA Europa League, and that obviously sometimes stopped them doing better than what they did in the Serie A. But if you look at Betsy projection, Lazio are projected to finish above Roma with 2 points margin, which doesn't mean they will necessarily win or draw this game, because if they lose, then of course they can still make up the ground. But I think that tells how it's very difficult really to split them. I do believe Roma have got better players overall, but Lazio structure has been impressive. Roma has never done a double on Lazio since 2015, 2016, which seems to me unlikely they're going to do it now. And on the other hand, in the last 10 derbies, only once both teams have scored in a true 3-2 wins for Lazio in 2021. But again, it's a far too long ago for not to happen again, considering how important in this game at this point. So yeah, both teams.
I won't ask you to separate the two teams and pick a winner. It is an absolute pick 'em. Betsy projected 1.22 goals for Lazio, 1.23 for Roma, so 0.01 difference between the two sides.
No, it's impossible.
Yeah, the BTTS yes or no Betsy projection is literally 50-50. So it's an absolute pick 'em. But I do understand the logic behind the bet, especially with Lazio playing in midweek against Bodo Glimt in the Europa League. That's going to have a big impact on this one.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it will. Lazio are not quite a team that can compete in two competitions, but they've done it well until December. Then the goals have dried out recently because Castellanos has been out. Now he's back in contention. Same could be said for Roma because of the lack of Dybala. But in these games, teams take something extra. It's not quite a season-defining game, but whoever loses doesn't go into the Champions League. As I said, I can see it at 1-1 here, written all over it.
Yeah, draw could be a good way in as well.
If it's a draw, it's not 0-0. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's unlikely it's going to be 0-0.
Yeah, looks good. Both teams score yes in Lazio versus Roma as Daniele's second pick. That's a 1.80 with a full unit on there. Scott, over to you for your second pick, which is probably the longest odds bet you ever had on the pod.
I think we did have one longer before and it lost, but this one's going to win. I'm on cloud nine after a good week in the Champions League, so I thought we'll go slightly bigger. So we're back in under 27.5 shots, and both teams to score at 3.40 in Manchester City versus Crystal Palace. And the numbers, as always, look pretty good. No Haaland for City. They are a very different team without Haaland. Marmoush is obviously a good player in his own right, but I think City is still trying to work out sort of how they'll play with him in the team as the most advanced player. City home matches this season have seen an average of 25.73 shots. So that's only marginally below this mark, but it just highlights the City are not quite the same team as they were. They did used to rack up a hell of a lot of shots, and those numbers have dropped more recently. So under 27.5 shots has won in their last 10 league games, and those have seen just 22.1 shots on average. So now we're talking comfortably below the line set here by the bookmaker. There's been 27 or less in 4 of Palace's last 5 matches, with 23 on average. And the head-to-head numbers are also very, very promising. There were 24 when the teams met at Selhurst Park earlier in the season. Under 27.5 has landed in the last 7 head-to-heads, though, with 22.71 on average. So all pointing to a very, very low shot count. So then both teams to score almost sounds a bit contradictory there, but both teams to score has also been landing in plenty of the head-to-heads. There was 2-2 when the teams met earlier in the season, 2-2 the last time they squared off the Etihad. Both teams have scored in 4 of the last 5 meetings between the two sides, and those matches have averaged 4.2 goals. So the lack of shots in the head-to-heads hasn't necessarily translated to a lack of goals. So I thought, why not combine them? I'm looking at this. Do I see City scoring? They're at home. Okay, they're not the team they once were. They've only failed to score in 1 of their last 10 competitive home matches, I believe. So that's just, it seems like a no-brainer. They scored 2 against Real Madrid in that time. Okay, Real Madrid have shown to be a little bit soft, but then Liverpool are the only team that managed to keep them out. So I don't see that happening here. I think Palace, as good as they have been, I don't think they can keep City at bay. And then we touched upon it. Palace have been fantastic in 2025. They've picked up the 3rd most points in the Premier League since the turn of the year, and they've played fewer games than Liverpool and Arsenal, who rank above them over that period. It's just been marvellous. In recent away games, they've scored in their last 5, scored 2 goals in 4 of those matches. A little bit of a hiccup where they drew 1-1 against Southampton, but I also see Palace scoring at the Etihad this weekend. So both teams to score and under 27.5 shots looks a really, really nice bet, just given that the head-to-head record's so strong for both of these bets. City, they really need the points. It's massive, but then it's not as dangerous, and restricting the opposition is something they're trying to do. I just don't think they'll succeed against a Palace side that are in full flight at the moment.
Yeah, I do apologise. It is the second longest bet you've had on the pod. You went for Wales to win the first half against Turkey in November in the international break. So,
yeah. They hit the post, didn't they? They hit the post. Yeah, that was unfortunate. On like the 41st minute. Yeah, I'm still not over that one.
Yeah, I remember that. On this match, Betsy is projecting 1.98 goals for Manchester City, 1.05 for Palace. 3.03 goals total is the 3rd highest in the Premier League this weekend expected. The highest not involving one of those soon to be relegated or already relegated sides. So, yeah, expecting goals at both ends, expecting quite a lot of excitement. And looking back at the head-to-head between these two teams, I'm glad you brought up that it's kind of contradictory as a bet, because it's 4.2 average goals in the last 5 matches between the two sides. I know it's not necessarily goals equals shots, but if we're expecting both teams to score, we're expecting quite a lively match. City need to win. They need to get goals. Palace will probably fancy themselves against this City side. So are you worried about that goal line, about that shot line, being 27.5? I wouldn't be surprised if it goes over and we see flowing football end to end.
It's not a particularly high shot line, so it's definitely got potential to go over. But unders just looks to be the value, as you said. The last 5 games between the teams have seen plenty of goals, but those matches have seen 22.2 shots on average, 24 when they met earlier in the season, under 27.5 landed in all 5. So I just think the price merits. Is it worth the risk there? Obviously, it's slightly bigger than we'd normally go for. So yes, you could increase that shot line and add security, but they've been scoring with a lack of shots, really. The shot lines haven't been criminally low, but 22.2 on average is very low for the Premier League.
Yeah, Very interesting. We'll keep an eye on that. Let's do a quick recap of the singles on today's show, starting with you, Sam.
I've gone for Newcastle win and under 4.5 goals at 2.10 for a unit, and also Aberdeen plus 0.5 Asian handicap versus Rangers at 1.95 for a unit, both on Bet365.
And Daniele?
Friday game in Italy, Udinese Milan over 2.5 goals, 190. And then on Sunday, the Roman derby, Lazio, Roma, both team to score, yes, 180. Both 1 unit on Bet365.
And Scott?
We're going Bournemouth versus Fulham, over 31.5 tackles and over 33.5 throws at 1.8. Man City versus Crystal Palace, under 27.5 shots, and both teams to score at 3.4. And we'll take a unit on both.
Good stuff. If you are going to be using any of the bets from today's show, then please gamble responsibly, only betting what you can afford to lose. Thank you as ever to Sam Ingram.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniele Fuscalo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott Thornton.
Cheers. Thank you.
And thank you from me. We'll be back on Monday with another Champions League special.